Good morning. On the table today I've got this beautiful Saito FA-300T. Now this so happens to be the engine that a very awesome man, Keith and friend, gave to me a couple of years ago. In fact, it was almost right when I first moved to Wisconsin here. Now, the last time I ran this engine was March of 2023. And unfortunately, I hate to say that this is one of those engines that has been neglected. I don't have the glow plugs in, and this thing is really sticky. So this is one of those things where I have this idea that I need to disassemble, do a partial disassembly, and at least flush the crankcase with some Marvel Mystery Oil and see if the bearings need to be replaced. Hopefully they don't, because I really don't want to go through that expense to replace the bearings in this. But what this means is that I am going to at least start removing the mount here, the intake, and I already started kind of loosening up a lot of these things because I tend to want to do that. So I'm going to do a partial disassembly. I don't know that I'm going to do a full disassembly of this engine. And I can tell you right now that there's already some things that have me seriously distressed about this engine, which is a major concern of mine, which is one of the things I do off camera, just because it can be a little frustrating if I do it on camera, is I start breaking loose key fasteners. And when I say key fasteners, it's like the ones that can tend to be a little difficult and stuck and in bad locations if you have to do other things to get them out. And I've encountered that with this engine, and it's rather disturbing. And it's these head bolts. Now, of the 8 head bolts, I've only been able to get 3 to loosen, and some have already started to feel like the head is getting soft. So I've got to come up with another means to get these things out. And so it's one of those things where this engine is really large, and you know, even if I had my ground straight, which I do have my ground precision drives, they're not going to be at a perfectly straight angle going in there because of the rockers and everything. So I'm like, well, all I really want to do is just pull the heads off and soak this whole crankcase piece. Well, obviously, in order to get the heads off, you got to get those screws out. So I'm kind of at a point where it's like, I didn't really want this to be a major project, and if I've already got so many screws that are unwilling to come loose, that's kind of turning into a major project. But anyway, so that's what I'm doing here is I'm just gonna start disassembling this to a point and see about freeing up some of those head screws. Now, I'm not going to be doing the head screw thing on camera, just because of the fact there's just really no way I'd be able to keep all that stuff in frame. There we go. So that's the kind of the point of this video, is I'm just going to start doing some disassembly here. And I really just I have to do a lot of disassembly of this mount just to get to the back cover and do it. That's the first thing, is take the back cover off, look inside there and see what's going on there. And there are a lot of screws here. I've got a 3-set bin here that has, you know, compartments, right, left, and then center stuff. So I'm just kind of throwing all these central things in here. Now, one of the things that I think is interesting here is look at the back end of this thing. I've had several of these on my table over the years, and every single one of them always had one of these screws that was yellow, painted head yellow. So this is, for my knowledge here, top of the engine, yellow screw is there for some reason. I don't know why they do that, and if there's a specific reason why that particular screw is yellow. I really don't know, but it obviously has some sort of meaning. I don't know if it means it's slightly longer. Let's leave that screw out here. Man, some of these parts are just big. It's got big. It's just big. So I've never looked inside this engine, and I don't know how much runtime this engine had on it. And it's hard to say whether the bearings feel smooth or not. It doesn't feel really grindy, but it's just stiff. And this is all my fault. I totally just neglected this engine, which is really a shame. But that's why I do these things, so I can take these things apart. So yeah, so that screw is shorter for whatever reason. That screw's shorter. I don't know. That's why. Because this is a boxer style engine. This isn't your standard odd fire engine. This is a boxer style, so it's got a double throw crankcase, or yeah, double throw crankshaft. And this screw here, because this cylinder head is the one that's closest back to the rear cover, needs to be shorter because otherwise it'd be contacting the connecting rod. So let's see. I don't have any predisposed ideas that that's just gonna come off easily. So let's get our wood block here and see if I can start rotating. And I've got my heat gun here also. I may have to and all I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to get this thing to rotate a little bit. Just move just a hair. And it's looking like it's really gonna be. Okay, I finally just turned the camera off. And so I've got this thing turning now. It's got the whole engine rather warm now too. I got it turning and it's coming off. But it is taking one hell of a toll on my wood block, and I thought I was going to be able to just pull this thing off. I thought having it turning like this would be enough to get me to get it to turn off, but I'm going to have to keep just kind of tapping it here. To get this off completely, and I'm sure I'm totally screwing this gasket up. Man, that is just really on there. So let's just tap it off. Finally. Man. All of that effort just to get the rear cover off. And like I said, my gasket is probably toast. And hopefully the gaskets for the 270 are exactly the same, because that's what I've got on order. Because I had a feeling that that was going to happen. Alright, so here's the inside of this thing. That looks pretty gnarly. Let me just wipe it down here real quick. Okay, it just looks gnarly because it's a lot of fuel residue and stuff. And maybe it's not as bad. Alright, so this gets me to the point now where I can at least start taking some of these upper portions of the head off. And of course now I don't have my nice mount anymore. So like I said, only 3 of the 8 head screws came loose. So now what I think my next course of action is just to start taking all the rocker covers off to try to get it so that I can kind of get a more straight angle to go in here. And I've got one of these, you know, obviously these cut down hex keys, but when they start twisting and don't fit in there anymore, then that's just a bad thing. So let's see here, this is the top of the engine, so this is the left cylinder, I'm calling it. So I'm just going to start taking these rocker covers off. I did manage to get the entire engine fairly warm. Let's just... Yeah, it still needs to be cleaned up. So I do have a source for a cylinder head screw set to replace any ones that I have to replace if I have damaged the heads, which I know I've at least damaged one head already. I think I tried to restrain myself to the best of my ability and not just kind of keep saying, oh, it'll break loose, it'll break loose, oh shit, it didn't break loose. Next thing here is rocker arms off, because these whole things come off. It's a cast piece, so that will give me maximum room there. So let's see if any of these are going to give me any kind of issue here. I didn't even really sit there and take a look at, the rocker arms like I normally do and say, oh gee, look, it doesn't look like it's got much runtime. I'm really kind of just focused on getting this down to a point. I know it doesn't have a whole lot of runtime on it, and the fact that I allowed it to get gummy is kind of one of my frustration factors with myself. But I also keep telling myself that I used castor oil fuel, and that castor, when it gets gummy, provides that protective coating against rust. That should have been fully unscrewed. How can that not be fully unscrewed off that? Unscrewing it all that. Well, let's move on to this one here. Well, that one's got a lot of pressure on it. That's why. Should still have any pressure on it. There we go. Well, that push rod just doesn't want to go in the bin. Okay. All right. Is that even the right size? This is one of the screws that's fine. This is bottom screw, so this is right cylinder. That broke loose fine. Now keep in mind I said that the ones that would break loose have already been broken loose. That's why you're not seeing me struggling here. Got so much other stuff to do today. I don't really have a whole lot of time to finish this up today. Trees to be cut down. The weather is getting warmer. Today it's actually going to be 34 degrees, which is a heat wave compared to what it has been the last 2 weeks. With single-digit temperatures and below zero wind chills. Or at least last week, that's what it was like. Okay, so there's the 3 screws, and here's the one that's a real bugaboo. So let's see if I can get my ground one. At a straight enough angle in here. And really just kind of tap that in there. Now what I'm going to do is probably heat the living crap out of it and put some vice grips on this. I got needle nose vice grips, probably not the best ones, but I could probably put those on here. Damn, that is not wanting to move at all. I think this thing was just, the handle was just twisting in there. I don't know if this thing is going to be strong enough to just grip that shank. We'll see. That's not nearly going to be tight enough. Now that's just rotating on the shank there. Now I can't get it off. How can I get my ground bit out of here? That's really warm. This is not a fun situation. I'll put a little oil on there. I don't know that it's going to make any difference because I don't think it can get anywhere. Really marking up the head here, trying to get this damn thing out of here now too. I'm open for suggestions at this point. Maybe I should try and find a different handle to put on here. Because this handle was one that had some issues. I glued it. I think I JB welded that screw in place. Wonder if I can just rotate this handle off of here. Now I'm just trying to extricate the handle from the bit. Well, JB Weld does, it holds. Damn, I wonder if I lubed that whole thing up with JB Weld. That's what I think I did, and now it's holding, but it's not. It makes me wonder if I missed the little cutout when I put the screw in there. I like that. Sounds like maybe it's wanting to come out. Maybe. Alright, well, I'm turning the camera off here now.